Ladies and gentlemen, Asian guy here. We often talk about our market movements or trends as if they are organic things like tides or weather. But in the brutal world of leveraged finance, markets don't move because of clouds or wind. They move because of pain. They move because someone somewhere is bleeding. And today we are going to anatomize the ultimate pain event. We are going to talk about the margin call. But not just any margin call. We are talking about the margin call from hell, the specific mechanical unstoppable chain reaction that is currently aimed at the foreign banks holding 215 million ounces of short silver contracts. We are going to look at the exact moment, the precise second, when a bank runs out of money and the system takes over. You need to understand the environment. A trading desk at a major European bank, let's call it Bank Euro, is a tense place. They have risk models. They have value at risk, VAR limits. They have a massive screen showing their P&L, profit, and loss. Right now, that screen is red. It has been red since December when JP Morgan flipped long. The short position they hold, 215 million ounces, is leveraged. They didn't put up the full value of that silver, which would be $6.5 billion at $30 OZ. No, they put up initial margin. On the COMEX, margin leverage can be 10.1 or 15.1. They might have only put up $600 million in cash to control $6.5 billion in silver liability. Here's the math of the nightmare. If you are leveraged 10-1 and the price of silver goes up 10%, you are wiped out. 100% of your equity is gone. But silver is a volatile beast. It can move 5% in an hour. Every day at the market close, the clearinghouse, the CME group, runs a mark-to-market calculation. They look at the closing price of silver. If silver closed up $1 today, that is a loss of $1 to 15,000 ounces. That is a $215 million loss in a single day. The clearinghouse does not accept IOUs. They do not accept we are good for it. They do not accept we are a 100-year-old bank. They send a digital demand post-variation margin. This means wire us $215 million in US dollars by tomorrow morning, or we liquidate you. Now imagine this happens 3 days in a row. Monday, silver up $1, loss 215 million Tuesday, silver up $1.50. Loss, 322 million Wednesday, silver up $2. Loss, 430 million in 3 days. Bank Euro has bled nearly $1 billion in cash. Liquidity is the oxygen of a bank. When you drain $1 billion in cash from their treasury in 72 hours, alarms start ringing. The chief risk officer, CRO, storms onto the trading floor. He screams at the head of the precious metals desk, "Close it! Close the position!" But the trader looks at him with dead eyes and says, "I can't." Why can't he? Because to close a short position, you have to buy. To close a 215 million ounce short, you have to buy 215 million ounces of paper silver. Who is selling? We established in previous videos that the US banks, JP Morgan, are long. They aren't selling. The miners are holding back supply. The stackers aren't selling. The only sellers are the HFT algos, and they will only sell at a higher price. If Bank Euro tries to buy 10 million ounces to cover a fraction of their short, their own buying pressure pushes the price up another $0 $50. This creates more losses on the remaining 205 million ounces. It is a trap. The act of trying to escape the trap tightens the noose. This is the liquidity trap, and this is where the margin call turns into a default event. The phone call from hell happens when the bank's treasury department calls the trading desk and says, "We have no more US dollars to send to the CME. We are tapped out." Remember, these are European or Asian banks. Their reserves are in euros or yen. They have to swap those currencies for dollars to pay the margin. But if the dollar is rising, or liquidity is tight, they can't get the dollars fast enough. When the money doesn't arrive at the clearinghouse by the deadline, usually mid-morning, the clearinghouse does not hesitate. They do not negotiate. They declare the member in default. This is the moment the human element is removed from the equation. The human trader is fired or escorted out of the building. His badge is deactivated. The Risk Engine takes over. The Risk Engine is a computer program owned by the exchange. Its only job is to protect the exchange from loss. It does not care about the price of silver. It does not care about orderly markets. It has one directive: liquidate the defaulting member's position immediately. Immediately means at market. This is the scariest phrase in finance. A market order to buy 215 million ounces of silver. Do you know what that does to an order book? The order book is a list of people willing to sell. At $30, there are 100 contracts for sale. At $30.10, there are 50 contracts. At $30.50, there are 200 contracts. At $31, there are 500 contracts. The Risk Engine fires the buy order. It eats the 100 contracts at 30 style hours instantly. It still needs to buy millions more, so it moves to $30. 10 eats those, moves to $30.50, eats those. In a fraction of a second, literally milliseconds, the computer chews through the entire visible liquidity of the market. It sweeps the book. $30, $32s, $33s, $35. This creates the vertical green line on the chart. The price gaps up because there are no sellers in between. It teleports from $30 to $35. Now, pause. Imagine the chaos. Other banks who were also short, the other bag holders, just saw silver jump $5 in 1 second. Their margin requirement just exploded by billions. Now they get the margin call from hell. This is the cascade. One bank failing triggers the margin call for the next bank, which forces them to buy, which drives the price higher, which kills the third bank. It is a nuclear chain reaction. And standing safely in the blast bunker is JP Morgan. They are net long. When the price teleports from $30 to $35, their account gains billions. They are the ones supplying the liquidity at $35, $40, $50. They are selling their longs to the dying shorts at maximum profit. The mechanics of this are brutal. It is financial Darwinism. The margin call is the predator that culls the weak, and right now, the weak herd is the group of foreign banks that JP Morgan betrayed. The super spike is not a theory. It is the mathematical result of a forced liquidation of a concentrated position in an illiquid market. We saw it in nickel in 2022. Nickel doubled in a few hours. Why? A Chinese tycoon got a margin call he couldn't pay. The computer took over. Silver is smaller than the currency market, but larger than nickel. However, the concentration of the short position, 2 and 15 million ounces in a few hands, makes it a powder keg. When that phone rings at Deutsche Bank or Barclays or Scotiabank, it marks the end of an era. It marks the moment where the paper suppression scheme eats itself. The margin clerk at the CME is the most powerful person in the world right now. His finger is hovering over the liquidate button, and we are just waiting for the price to tick up $1 more to force him to press it. We have discussed the trigger, the default. Now we need to discuss the environment in which this detonation occurs. We need to talk about the vacuum. In a normal market, for every buyer, there is a seller. This creates liquidity. Price moves smoothly, tick by tick. But we're not in a normal market. We are in a post-suppression market where the US banks have withdrawn their spoofing orders. For years, the sell side of the order book was populated by fake orders from JP Morgan and others. They stacked massive walls of sell orders to keep the price down. This created the illusion of deep liquidity. Look at all those sellers at $30, but now that they are net long, those sell orders are gone. The order book is thin, it is hollow. Above the current price, there is very little resistance. This is the vacuum. When the risk engine of the clearinghouse activates the forced liquidation of the foreign banks, it is firing a cannonball into a vacuum. There is no air resistance. Let's visualize the order matching engine. This is the brain of the COMEX. It matches buyers and sellers. When the forced buy order for 215 million ounces hits the engine looks for sellers. It finds the first few sellers at $30. Done. Then it looks for the next seller. Hello, is anyone selling at $30.50? Silence. Is anyone selling at $31? Silence. Is anyone selling at $32? A small hedge fund offers 5 contracts. Sold. Is anyone selling at $35? Do you see what is happening? The price is gapping. A gap is when the price jumps from one level to another without trading at the levels in between. In a super spike scenario, you might see the ticker tape read $30.05, $30.50, $32.10, $38, 45 stars. This happens in seconds. This is the super spike. It creates a candle on the chart that is just a solid green body with no wicks. It covers a $10 or $20 range in a single 1-minute bar. Why are there no sellers? The banks are long. They want higher prices. The stackers are holding, waiting for $100. The miners are holding, waiting for fair value. The algos have switched to buy-only mode, trend following. So, the risk engine is screaming buy, buy, buy into an empty room. This panic algorithm creates slippage. Slippage is the difference between the price you wanted and the price you got. In a forced liquidation, slippage is infinite. The computer doesn't care if it pays $50 for silver that was $30 a minute ago. It just needs to close the contract. This is where the circuit breakers come in. The exchange has rules. If the price moves too fast, they halt trading. Limit up. Trading stops for 15 minutes. Traders stare at their screens, sweat pouring down their faces. The foreign banks use those 15 minutes to try to find cash. They call the Fed, they call the ECB. Help us, but 15 minutes isn't enough to raise $5 billion. The market reopens. The risk engine is still active. It still has 150 million ounces left to buy. Wham! The price gaps up again immediately. Another limit up. We could see a day where silver is locked limit up. You cannot buy, you cannot sell. The price is stuck at the maximum allowed daily move, and the backlog of buy orders grows. This bidless market, or rather offerless market, is the stuff of nightmares for a short seller. It means you are trapped in a burning building and the door is welded shut. You cannot get out. You can only watch your equity burn. And consider the option market makers. We talked about gamma squeeze earlier. As the price gaps through $35, $40, $45, the option dealers are also forced to buy to hedge their calls. Now you have the risk engine of the defaulting bank competing with the risk engines of the option dealers. They are bidding against each other for the same non-existent silver. This is a feedback loop of liquidity death. Price goes up, margin call, forced buy. Price goes up, option hedge, forced buy. Price goes up. There is no damping mechanism. Usually, profit-taking dampens a rally. But who takes profit at $40 when they know a bank is blowing up? No one. The sharks smell blood. They hold. They pull their sell orders higher. Oh, you need to buy? Well, my price just went from $50 to $100. The order book becomes a game of chicken. The sellers realize they have the power. They dictate the price. The buyer is forced to buy. The seller is choosing to sell. That power dynamic shifts the price vertically. This mechanism is why I say $10 or $20 moves are possible. In the 1980 Hunt Brothers squeeze, silver moved $4, $5, $6 in a day when silver was $20. Percentage-wise, that is massive. Today, with high-frequency trading and algorithmic execution, the speed is 1,000x faster. What took days in 1980 will take milliseconds in 2026. The vacuum is the result of 40 years of destroying the supply side. There is no buffer stock. There is no strategic reserve. There is only the vault, and the vault is empty. So, when the margin call comes, it hits a market with zero elasticity. It hits a brick wall of demand and a vacuum of supply. The result is the super spike, a vertical line that reprices the world's most undervalued asset in the blink of an eye. And the scary part? Once it gaps to $50 or $60, it stays there. It establishes a new floor, because the shorts are dead. The suppression money is gone. The new price reflects the reality of what does it cost to get someone to sell their silver, and that cost is high. We have seen the bank fail. We have seen the risk engine create the super spike. Now we must look at the structural damage to the system itself. We need to talk about the CCP, the Central Counterparty Clearinghouse. The COMEX, part of CME Group, guarantees every trade. If Bank A defaults, the CME steps in and pays Bank B. This is supposed to prevent contagion. The CME sits in the middle. But the CME is not magic. It has a finite amount of money. It has a default fund or guarantee fund. This is a pool of money contributed by all the member banks, JP Morgan, Citi, Goldman, and the foreign banks. It is the insurance policy. Here's the doomsday scenario. The foreign banks default on a 215 million ounce short position. The loss is $5 billion. The CME seizes the collateral of the foreign banks. It's not enough. Maybe they recover $2 billion. There is a $3 billion hole. Who pays the $3 billion? The default fund. Who owns the default fund? The other banks, specifically the US banks who are net long. Do you see the irony? JP Morgan is making billions on their long silver position, but they are also on the hook to pay for the default of the guys they just squeezed. This creates a civil war inside the clearinghouse. JP Morgan will argue, we shouldn't have to pay for their stupidity. The exchange will argue, those are the rules. This is where the rule book gets weaponized. The exchange has emergency powers. Rule 420, or similar clauses, allows the exchange to declare force majeure. They can liquidation-only trading. They can force settlement at a fixed price. This happened in the nickel market on the LME in 2022. The price spiked to $100,000. The exchange panicked. They realized that if they let the trades stand, half the brokers in London would be bankrupt. So what did they do? They canceled the trades. They rewound the clock. They said, the last 8 hours didn't happen. Will they do this for silver? They might try. But here's the difference. In nickel, it was one Chinese tycoon versus a bunch of banks. In silver, it is major US banks, long versus foreign banks, short. If the exchange cancels the trades, they are stealing billions of dollars from JP Morgan. Do you think Jamie Dimon will let the exchange cancel his winning lottery ticket? No. The US banks have the political power. They will force the default. They will force the liquidation. They want the foreign banks to die so they can buy their carcasses. So the exchange is stuck. They can't cancel the trades without angering the US giants. They can't let the trades stand without bankrupting the default fund. This paralysis creates systemic contagion. The fear spreads to other markets. If the CME can't settle silver, can they settle gold? Can they settle S&P 500 futures? Trust evaporates. This is when the Federal Reserve might get involved. A backdoor bailout. The Fed might print $10 billion and lend it to the CME to cover the hole. This prevents the exchange from collapsing. But it also confirms that the dollar is trash. It confirms that they have to print money to suppress the result of a free market. During this crisis, which might last 2 or 3 days, the silver market might be effectively broken. You might see a price on the screen, but you can't trade. Dealers will stop selling physical metal. Market closed until further notice. This is the unobtainium phase I mentioned. When the paper market breaks, the physical market detaches. The spot price might be frozen at $50 by the exchange. But on eBay, silver eagles are trading for $150. The margin call from hell burns down the paper casino. It reveals that there are 500 paper claims for every 1 ounce of silver. When the default happens, 499 people get cash, maybe, and 1 person gets the silver. The clearinghouse is the last line of defense. When it buckles, we enter a new monetary paradigm. The rule of law in markets is tested. If they change the rules to save the shorts, the world loses faith in the U.S. financial system. If they let the shorts die, the system resets at a higher price. Based on the banker flip, I believe the decision has been made. Let them die. The U.S. banks are positioned to survive the explosion. They are wearing the blast suits. The foreign banks are the sacrificial lambs. The mechanics of the clearing process ensure that the pain is concentrated and immediate. The variation margin calls are the drumbeat of execution. Pay, 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 default. And when the default hits, the super spike is the mushroom cloud. It is the visible evidence of a system destroying itself. So, the smoke clears. The super spike has happened. Silver hit $70, $80, maybe touched $100 in a blow-off top before settling. The foreign banks have been liquidated, nationalized, or absorbed by JP Morgan. The clearinghouse has been bailed out by the Fed. What does the world look like the next morning? It looks like a world where silver is no longer $30. The anchor has been lifted. The overhang of the massive short position is gone. The 215 million ounces of paper silver that was suppressing the price has been bought back and extinguished. This creates a new floor. Maybe the new floor is $60. Maybe it's $75. It will be volatile, but it won't go back to $30. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. The super spike changes the psychology of the world. The miners, they realize they have power. They stop selling at cheap prices. They demand the new normal price. The industry, Samsung, Tesla, Apple, they saw the spike. They saw the default. They panic. They realize supply security is more important than price. They start bidding wars for physical stockpiles. The public, the news headlines read, "Silver squeeze bankrupts global banks. FOMO, fear of missing out, goes global. People who never bought an ounce start buying." This is the transition from a managed market to a free market. In a free market, price is determined by the marginal buyer. And the marginal buyer is desperate. The margin call from hell was the fire that burned away the dead wood. It burned away the manipulation. It burned away the naked shorts. What is left is the truth. And the truth is, silver is rare. Silver is strategic, and silver is money. For the stacker who held through the spike, you are now sitting on a fortune. But more importantly, you are holding an asset that has been de-risked. The risk of suppression is gone because the suppressors are dead. The U.S. banks, JP Morgan, Citi, are now the kings of silver. They hold the physical long positions. They profit from higher prices. They will use their media influence to push the price up, not down. You will see Goldman Sachs issuing price targets of $200. You will see CNBC doing specials on the silver century. The narrative will flip because the ownership has flipped. The super spike is the transfer mechanism. It transfers the silver from the weak hands, shorts, to the strong hands, U.S. banks and stackers. It transfers the wealth from the fiat system to the hard asset system. This technical deep dive into the mechanics of margin calls might seem complex, but it boils down to one simple concept: insolvency. The short sellers are insolvent. They owe metal they don't have. They owe money they don't have. The mechanism of the exchange, the risk engine, the liquidation order, the default fund, is just the machinery that processes that insolvency. It is the meat grinder. And the foreign banks are the meat. So when you see the price of silver jump $5 in a minute, don't ask why. You know why. It's the computer. It's the margin call. It's the liquidation. Sit back. Watch the green line go vertical and know that every tick higher is a shackle falling off the silver market. The prisoners are breaking free. The guards are broke. And the gates are open. This is the mechanics of the super spike. It is inevitable. It is mathematical. And it is coming. I'm Asian guy. The phone is ringing in Europe. And they can't pay the bill. I'll see you at $100.